guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Megan and I am a mom of two. That's the first time saying that in a video. My son Rowan is 2 years old and we just had little baby Juniper, 11 days ago?
Today, yeah, 12 I think.
Okay. And today we're going to be sitting down to tell Juniper's birth story. So we did do a birth vlog. So if you want to see the vlog version of this, I'll leave it linked up here for you. But since we were in a hospital and there were obviously other patients, there were places we couldn't film. And then just like things were crazy and he was, you know, being a birth partner as well as trying to film. So I thought we would sit down and tell the story, tell you guys all the parts that got left out of the birth vlog. It's kind of a crazy story. If you've seen it already, you know that the doctor actually didn't even make it into the room for her birth. So like 3 days before I had her, I lost my mucus plug. And since I was a second-time mom, I knew that that meant that labor was probably coming pretty soon. And those were a rough couple of days, just like waiting for it, waiting to feel contractions. And then it was even more annoying because I kept having like, I don't know whether it was Braxton Hicks or like low-key prodromal labor, but I basically was having contractions for like a few hours and they were a little bit painful, which makes me think that maybe it wasn't Braxton Hicks, but they also didn't progress and then they would eventually go away. So I was like doing the mile circuit and bouncing on the ball and eating all the pineapple and dates and drinking raspberry leaf tea, and I was just like, I was done. And then the morning or the afternoon of July 14th, which is the day she was born, I started having contractions around 1 p.m. And it was the same thing. They like didn't really get more intense. They didn't get closer together. So I was like, it's probably still not labor. From like 1 to 5, I was just having these kind of light contractions. I actually went to the thrift store and went thrifting, and we like hung up some curtains in the kitchen, and there were people here knocking down trees in our backyard. And I came back from the thrift store and I was like super bummed, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And that was like,
It was 5 p.m. exactly. I was playing video games and you were laying in the bed and you texted me and said, I'm sad, come snuggle. And so I did. One of Megan's subscribers said, adult activities to completion is a great way to start labor. And so I was like, you know, we could do that if you wanted to. She was like, okay.
just like willing to try anything at that point.
Boy, did that kick it into high gear.
Yeah, we were doing like, trying to do like the nipple stimulation thing, and it was so funny because it was like so clinical. It was just you being like, is this doing anything? And me being like, I don't know, and then being like, oh, I'm having a contraction.
Is this working for you?
And it was just getting really intense really fast. So we like scrambled to grab all the stuff and get out the door and drive to the hospital.
Yeah, it was like half an hour.
Yeah.
That we were like tearing around because she was already hitting like unable to talk through them.
And they were like 2 minutes apart.
Like she went from I'm sad, like we need to do something, to holy crap.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it was like,
what was it you said to me? I need you to not ask me any questions unless absolutely necessary. And I was like, okay. And so I was
running around. He's like, do you want to bring this? Do you want to bring this? I'm just like, I'm in labor. Let me breathe.
We hit the road, and that's in the birth vlog, us on the phone with the hospital.
And they said, you know, we'll be ready for you. You know, we'll get all the paperwork done. And then we got there, and there were how many other laboring women in the...
There were 2 in there when we got there.
So we were number 3.
And 2 more showed up while we were there. But everyone got taken back before us.
Yeah. So we were in the lobby. I was in active labor in the lobby for like a half an hour.
Yeah, something like that.
And it was so funny because the people at the like reception desk kept like trying to like ask me questions and get me to fill out paperwork and stuff. I was like, first of all, I registered online. Second of all, they were like, can you come up here? And I was like, no.
Can you sign this form? I was like, are you for real? Are you for real?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need? Like, let me do it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Like they wouldn't come around the desk for me to sign. I'm sure there was a reason, but it was just funny. Eventually we got taken back to triage, and our triage nurse wasn't actually a triage nurse. She was an OR nurse, and things were so slammed that they had just like pulled her to do triage. And we stayed in the triage room forever because they were like, well, we have a room for you, but we don't have a nurse. Because like everybody went into labor at the same time.
Yeah, I guess there was another, even like, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but there was another birth at the exact same time that Juniper was born too. So it was just...
It was crazy. And it was hard because like we weren't settled. You know, we were just like moving from place to place. Like the lobby to triage to the labor and delivery room, and then eventually to the recovery room. And it was like, I couldn't set up my stuff. I didn't have a birth ball for a really long time, which last time I brought a birth ball, and this time I was like, I don't think I actually need to bring one because they have one there, and I wish that I had brought it.
Because you didn't have it for like 2 hours.
Yeah. Eventually
it was a 5-hour labor, so.
Yeah, eventually we had them bring one to triage because I was like, I need help. If you don't know, I had an unmedicated labor, and so the birth ball was like a big pain management technique for me. Yeah, we were in triage forever, eventually got a birth ball, and then we got taken to the labor and delivery room, which was interesting because we had Juniper at the same hospital we had Rowan at. And for Rowan's labor, like a big thing for the hospital was like, you don't have to move rooms. You get to stay in one room the whole time. And I thought it was going to be the same, but I guess they like remodeled. So we got moved around quite a bit, but we got into the labor room. That part's kind of a blur to me. You set everything up.
Yeah, so I set up the little tea lights everywhere, and I set up the cameras, and I set up
We had string lights,
the
music.
string lights, the stream beats. And I was like, okay, we need to turn these lights off. Thankfully, there were light switches this time.
Yeah.
At the Rowan's birth, a nurse like climbed on a chair and taped those heavy pads.
Oh,
like
is that what you used?
She basically
That's funny.
taped a diaper to the ceiling of the motion detector because the lights were motion activated. They didn't have switches.
And it's funny because last time position changes were like my main pain management technique. Like every 2 or 3 contractions I was changing positions, and this time that was not working for me. And the position that I liked the best in my last labor, which was like on my knees with my arms and chest on the ball, was like super painful. And it's just so funny to like think about the fact that every labor is so different because I was expecting to be able to do the same stuff and I didn't.
You didn't get as cold either.
Yeah, there wasn't as much like hot, cold. I mainly just wanted to like sit on the exercise ball because Matt was able to do counter pressure with his knees and his hands. So it was a lot more pressure in that position, which was really, really helpful. And I also used combs. So the idea behind the combs is that like your body can only really process one physical sensation at a time. And so you like put your hands on all the little, what would they be called? Tines? Like
that's
a
what I was
fork?
going to say. Teeth.
Teeth, that's it. Of the combs, and you focus on that sensation rather than the contractions.
Do you feel like that helped?
I do. Yeah, it helped me to like, yeah, I guess just
It gave you
focus
something
on
to
something else.
do.
Yeah.
I guess even that alone would like help.
And I was just doing a lot of like long inhales and exhales, and I did this in Rowan's labor as well. I would just count like how many long breaths. So in through the nose, out through the mouth, 1. In through the nose, out through the mouth, slowly, 2. And when we got there, the contractions were like 8 long breaths. And by the time I was like almost in labor, it was like 16. And it just helped me because I knew like if I got to 10, it like peaked around 10. At 12, the nausea would come. I did get IV Zofran, so that helped a little bit. I didn't actually throw up, but I would get really nauseous, like, right after the peak of a contraction. The nausea was actually kind of a relief, because I knew when I got to the point in the contraction when I was nauseous that it was, like, declining, and it was almost over.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
So, like, I felt like I was about to throw up, but I didn't feel like I was gonna die, so...
I feel like counting the breaths is a good, like, mental, like, distraction as well.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing this for a physical thing, and then your mind is on, like, counting how many breaths you're taking and focusing on your breath.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really good focusing.
So they checked me in triage. I was at a 6.5. By the time we got to the labor and delivery room, I was at an 8, which is when transition begins, that like 8 to 10 centimeters. And I felt like it was moving pretty fast. I was feeling pretty good about it. My labor with Rowan was 10.5 hours. And so I was pretty sure this one was going to be shorter. And then our OB came in and she asked if I wanted her to break my water. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this or not going in because I did it with Rowan and it was super painful. I think it was done in the middle of a contraction or like right before a contraction started. And then that next contraction was just like god awful. So I asked her, I was like, how much is that going to speed things up? Like, you know, for a second time mom at 8 centimeters, like how quickly am I going to have this baby? And she was like, probably within like a half an hour. And I was like, cool, do it. Because I was like ready, you know? So she broke my water and this time it was not nearly as painful.
You were at an 8.
Which was good. And I was at an 8.
When she did that.
And the whole time they're like running around trying to find things because the hospital was just chaos. So they were trying to find me the cub chair, which is like the kind of like U-shaped blow-up chair that they can put on the bed, and you can use that for a position change. And so right after they broke my water, they found the cub chair, they brought it in, put it on the bed, and I went over there and did 1 contraction, and like halfway through the contraction I was like, oh, I'm pushing. completely involuntary. And so I start yelling. I'm like, I'm pushing. The nurse asks, and you can hear it in the video, she's like, what are you feeling, Megan? I'm like, I think this baby's coming right now.
That feeling of giving you counter pressure and then feeling your body push is unlike anything.
Really?
Like your whole body convulses.
That's crazy that you could feel that from the outside.
I felt it both times.
Wow.
Because I remember, because there were so many more the first time, because I helped you through so many of those involuntery, because they were like, you can't push yet for like half an hour or something like that.
And this time she was just like, if you feel like you need to push, you can push.
You can hear me in the video too. I go, oh, like, yeah, because I remembered. And it's like a roll. Because the way I've got your held like this, you're like rocks under me.
Oh, that's crazy.
Crazy feeling.
Yeah, and like the last thing I had heard was that I was 8 centimeters. So I was like, I can't push at 8 centimeters, but my body was like, you can and you will. I had previously talked to the nurse about pushing position. And I know I'll probably get comments about this. I did push on my back again. And again, that wasn't my plan, but it's what my body wanted and needed in the moment. And obviously it worked out okay. So she was like, do you want me to put you on your back? Because we had talked about it. And I was like, this is how I pushed last time. It worked out well. And so I said, yes. She put me on my back. I had a second contraction and Juniper was crowning. And so the nurse runs over to the phone.
She gets on her back, gets in position with the bed, and she's like, okay, I'm going to call the doctor. And I'm like watching because I know, I remember. And so you started going, I was holding your hand and you were vocalizing.
That's what I was going to say earlier that I couldn't remember. Last time I was like louder. And I was like, it helped the pain to like kind of like moan and yell a little bit. And this time I was almost not like making any noise at all until we got to pushing.
Oh yeah, so you started vocalizing, and I'm, you're on your back. I'm standing right there, and I'm looking, and I watch. This is gonna be very descriptive, but you just opened like a flower, and there was Juniper's head, and the nurse. I was like, the baby's head. I was like, the head's right here. Yeah. So with Rowan, it was like there was just black.
Like his hair.
Yeah, and I was like, is that his head? And they were like, yep. And you would push, and it would come out a little bit, and then it would go back in, and then it would come out a little bit farther, and then go back in. With her, I was just like, that's the head. It did not go back in, and then it was out. It was, and I said this, it was almost anticlimactic.
Not for me.
It was still so amazing, but there was just this huge buildup for Rowan's birth, which was like, oh, here's coming. And after 10 hours of no sleep and everything, and that's why I like lost my ever-loving mind with that birth. But this, I was just like,
so yeah, he says that's the baby's head. The nurse is trying to call our doctor, and when she hears him say like, oh, that's her head, she like kind of drops what she's doing and like basically runs over to like catch this baby as she slip and slides out of me.
Oh yeah, I was gonna catch the baby. Dr. Swan was like, did you want to catch the baby this time? I was like, oh, can I? Like, that sounds awesome.
You did not have time.
No time. I think another nurse had come in. It was the nurse that had brought the cub chair. She was in, and you see this on the video. She runs behind me and she pushes the panic button.
Of like, get
and
people
so
in
you
here
hear
right
the
now.
alarm, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And so that's sounding all up and down the hallway.
So I have like the half a push in the cub chair where I'm like, oh, I'm pushing. Get on my back. I have another push where her head is coming out basically. And the difference with this labor too is that I had breaks in between my contractions. With Rowan, it just kind of went from like a 10 to a 7 to a 10 to a 7. And I was almost completely normal between contractions.
You were conversational.
So it was weird because like here I am pushing this baby out and then I would have like a break for a minute. And like I asked the nurse, I was like, have I pooped? She was like, no.
The delirium. Did I poop?
Yeah. Second push, her head's out. Third push, baby's out. Nurse catches her. Nurse is not used to delivering babies. And then our doctor finally makes it in the room. Yeah, things got kind of crazy. They took her out and put her on my chest and she didn't cry, which was terrifying.
That was scary. She had the cord strapped across her neck. Like, it wasn't wrapped around, but as she came out, and it was, it was here on her, and it was like behind her back and over her shoulder.
Okay.
So it wasn't like wrapped around her head, but as she's coming out, and the cord is behind, it was like this.
Yeah.
And her face was a little bit purple, and I could only see that because of the comparison. And so she's, she gets unwrapped and then puts her up and puts her on your chest, and then she was breathing. I could hear Juniper breathing, like, you just kind of but she wouldn't cry. And I was like,
and they're like rubbing her back with a towel and trying to make her cry. And I'm like, is she okay? Is she okay? Is she breathing? Because I was like, you know, that moment where you give birth to your child and you wait to hear their first cry is like the longest 2 seconds ever. And for her, it was even longer. And I just was like, is she all right? And they kept being like, yeah, she's okay. But you could tell they were a little concerned.
Her color was good. As soon as the cord came unwrapped, the color flushed back in. And so they were just like, she's breathing.
Yeah.
But those first like 24, 48 hours, she just didn't cry.
Yeah.
She would be like, meh.
Yeah.
And that was it. That she would like sound her displeasure at the situation.
Even now, she doesn't cry that much. Like, I'm sure I'll talk about this in like a postpartum update, but she's like the chillest baby compared to Rowan.
So yeah, they brought in all the stuff because like normally they break the bed down, you know, and they get all the the equipment out and everything. And
to do like the placenta and like...
But they didn't have any of that when the baby came out. So you were just like sitting in a pool.
Yeah.
For a while there. And that was... Oh yeah, she came out pooping. Just boom. Yeah. It was like got pushed out with her.
Yeah. Came into the world really announcing her entrance. Yeah. And I also didn't tear, which is awesome. So that was a team effort because we've been doing perennial massages for 3 weeks. And they suck, but man, I have no stitches. And like my postpartum recovery has been a breeze compared to Rowan's.
Talk about clinical.
Yeah. And then that was it. And she was there, and you were cutting the cord, and you were crying, but you were like, this was so fast.
It was just so like a lightning strike of just, this baby's coming right now, and within 2 minutes she was there.
Baby. But yeah, she was born at 10:57, so I went into like active labor at 6. I was like pre-labor from 1 to 6, active labor at 6, and then she was born about 5 hours later. So yeah, it was a crazy whirlwind. All the nurses were really excited that there was a nurse delivery. Yeah. And then they wheeled us into the recovery room after they like did the placenta and all of that. And yeah.
We lost your bra.
And the hospital lost my bra. Somebody Instagram messaged me because I mentioned it on Instagram, and they were like, why did the hospital take your bra? And I was like, that's a good question. I don't remember.
You wanted to just clean up. And so I think it just ended up on the floor and got swept up in the laundry because they cleaned the room pretty quickly. Yeah. You know, to get it turned.
Well, yeah, it was so busy.
Yeah, it was just chaotic. Well, we had to move rooms. I made it really easy to lose stuff. So
that was pretty much it. That was her whirlwind of a birth story. And we did a first 24 hours of the newborn vlog too. So if you want to keep going on this little journey, I'll leave the card here too. But yeah. Thank you guys for sitting down with us and chatting about little Miss May's birth.
She was like...
Ooh, all right, she's waking up. We better go. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we love you. And make sure you're subscribed if you're not already for lots of newborn content, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, merch.
Bye.
It's my call to action.
Every time.